Hello and welcome back to the podcast. We've got, since it's October, we've got some spooky stuff cooked up here for you. Namely, one gentleman in particular, and that is John Carpenter. I guess as far as introducing John Carpenter, we did an episode a while back actually on him, and for some reason the spirits didn't want that one released because it got corrupted. Something in the computer, the ghost in the machine, as it were, came through and deleted it or something.
Too critical of the ghosts of Mars. They took revenge.
Yeah, no idea what happened there. But this is a guy that
Now here's a guy.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. He's an American film director, writer, producer, and composer, right? He's a composer.
Yeah, he's a composer, musician,
Yeah,
editor.
bit of a jack of all trades, if you will. He's kind of one of those guys that I feel like a lot of directors nowadays either want complete control or they want to be able to just place the camera in a spot and they know what kind of shot they want. But he is someone that very much has a vision for what music and what tone and what mood he wants to create throughout. And he was actually reasonably capable of doing that with music as well, I would say. Do you have anything else that you want to add to introduce him?
Yeah, he's definitely a legendary director who's still alive. He's been mostly retired now since he made a movie in 2010, and that was the first movie he'd made in 10 years up to that point anyway. Uh, Time has mostly not been kind to John Carpenter. At least some of his movies have gone through critical reappraisals, and some have become classics that were once financially ruinous. But his 90s movies in particular derailed his career from turning into something more akin to Steven Spielberg or being able to direct non-genre films. So, in general, I would agree with you and say that when he was at his peak as a filmmaker and a storyteller, he definitely had exactly what you described, a great vision, and his knowledge and craft of so many facets of filmmaking really played a role in being able to make some unique movies. And his downfall was ultimately ceding a lot of control to studios to make studio movies, um, which, if you really can criticize them for any one thing in particular, it would definitely be that they are passionless. They are void of a lot of the same warmth and feeling that his older movies have, which is ironic given that his oldest, best movies are not warm. They're very unpleasant, dark, sometimes satirical, but mostly nihilistic movies about apocalypses and men being destroyed by unnatural forces.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I mean, I guess we'll kind of circle back to all of the introductory pieces as we work our way through. But I know you mentioned off air that we'll kind of be weaving our way through John Carpenter. I apologize if you're out there and you've seen every single thing by John Carpenter and you think he's the greatest thing since moldy sliced bread. But we'll be working our way through not necessarily his most popular, but more his best work, and I guess glossing over some of the other pieces while mentioning them. Whatever is worth noting. Obviously, we're filtering out based on our own subjective choices, but that's our podcast. So
Yeah, well, unlike a lot of the other directors whose careers we've tried to annotate or summarize in a relatively quick and dirty fashion, Carpenter has a longer career than most of them. He's older than most of the ones we've covered, and his career is like set in stone. You know, he's not going to make more. Um, but on top of that, it's mostly only worth talking about the 18 theatrical movies he made and not the TV movies because, to your point, they're really not very popular. I'm not like a John Carpenter super fan. Like I haven't seen all of his random not short films, but like anthology segments that he made over the years because he's made like 5 or 6 of those. They're just like, 20 to 30-minute short segments that show up in a horror anthology, or he did direct some episodes of some direct to Peacock suburban horror thing like 2 years ago. So he vaguely is kind of still working in TV. Um, but very few people, other than maybe the most dedicated fans of Carpenter and his work, would be involved in that. Most of what Carpenter's been doing lately, like in the last, 10 to 15 years, has been as an executive producer, cashing checks because his name is on stuff, composing music for those new Halloween movies, which, um, depending on how quickly we get through things, maybe we'll talk about the Halloween franchise in general, just since
I'm sure it will
we're
come up.
nearing that point. But
Yeah, sorry, I'm
uh,
way too twitchy. I've had way too much caffeine, so I'm trying to like piece together some type of like very silly outfit um in honor homage to Carpenter.
it doesn't help that you're just listening to my monotone. There's no intonation. There's no
Here we
real
go. Now here's a hat.
pronunciation.
Now here's a hat. Here's a hat. All right, we're good to
In
go.
honor of his best work. But yeah, the no more pontification is needed. Let's just dive right into it. Like I said, we're not going to cover the theatrical movies or his TV shows because that is a bit too niche, and I'm not even familiar with all of them. Whereas I have seen all 18 of his theatrical movies. The first of which is a 1974 pseudo student film called Dark Star.
Pseudo student film. He was a student when he released this.
He was not. It came out of a student film he made, and it's very obvious that it is like a very good student film with extra scenes added in to be a feature film or just a mediocre feature film. There's some good ideas in it. It's kind of like if you took some of the best ideas of 2001: A Space Odyssey and Doctor Strangelove and morphed them together, and it was made by a bunch of stoners in Southern California in the early 70s
Damn.
and made it lo-fi. Like it is definitely lo-fi, high fuzz, uh bunch of dudes with big beards.
Yeah, that I mean, we'll be talking about this throughout, but there's certainly a certain John Carpenter like element or style that you can recognize that's woven throughout his movies, and I would say, I mean, we'll examine his sort of legacy or like lasting impact on filmmakers in general, but you can kind of see people who try to ape him in especially horror movies with like different style or kind of like, yeah, even just down to like you're talking about like men with beards just like meandering around LA.
I mean, the special effects in this movie are great. It's only 80 minutes long or like 85 minutes. It's kind of slow paced. Uh, you can't really fully understand what they're saying.
Oh boy.
It does not have like you're saying, his films have a very distinct look, feel, atmosphere, and tone to them. Like pretty much everything between Alien and I guess I would say Escape from LA, maybe Vampires. Like they
Alien?
all what?
Why'd you say
Hello?
alien?
Ghost from Mars,
Oh, sorry.
Vampires. Yeah, not Alien.
Okay.
Uh Dan O'Bannon, the writer of Dark Star, did also write Alien.
Oh, okay.
So the Alien is on the brain.
Got it.
Uh, but yeah, this movie is not for everyone. It's probably not for most people. It's barely even a quote unquote real movie, but it is interesting enough. If you like the really early like experimental pseudo narrative films of filmmakers right as they begin, Dark Star is worth watching. Uh,
Yeah, I lost the thread of what I was also gonna say, but you can also see sort of one of the reasons why Carpenter has such a cult following as well, because of those, because he has a specific aesthetic that people enjoy, and also just in general like the themes that he's interested in. If that's like up someone's alley, then they put Carpenter on a pedestal, which I would say for good reason as well, for the most part. But he's certainly like a cult. Um, he he's not really campy, but he has campy elements at times. But he's yeah. I mean, we'll get there as we work our way through. But
yeah. Yeah, so part of what makes him, and we've never really talked about the subject in particular, we've just danced around it or just agreed that we think similarly to it, about like auteur theory in cinema and what it is about a movie that makes it an auteur driven, or the difference between directors that are more studio system or craftsmen versus those true auteurs. And Carpenter has great examples of both. But in general, I think it's the way that you can look at most of any of those films between Halloween and Ghosts of Mars and say that's obviously a John Carpenter movie.
yeah,
Like you can pick from frames of the movie and go, that looks like a John Carpenter movie. They have very similar lighting. His directorial style is very similar, which is, remarkable given his general lack of style as a director. Like he doesn't use a lot of extra flair to make himself known as the guy behind the camera. It helps that he also composes the music for a lot of his own movies and writes or rewrites the screenplays. And pretty much after Assault on Precinct 13, he only worked with two cinematographers the rest of his career. It helps that he stylized his movies. So at the beginning of every movie, it says John Carpenter's Halloween, John Carpenter's The Thing.
yeah.
Like he knew how to sell the movie as like I'm the big guy. I made the movie. Uh, and they all have the same that same font to them. So it's a branding. He understood branding early and used it successfully while he could.
Oh, definitely.
Moving on, his next movie, really his first real movie, is Assault on Precinct 13. I don't know if you've seen this one or not.
I believe I have actually. I think hmm, this may have been a late night watch with you. I think.
It's
I
been remade.
yeah.
Uh, Great movie. This one I really enjoy. It's kind of like an action movie or like an invasion movie. Basically, a bunch of cops end up having to work with a bunch of criminals in a police precinct as they get invaded by like a gang who wants to kill one of the criminals.
Hmm.
This movie is very violent. Maybe not as explicit or gory as movies are made today, but definitely for the 70s, it feels a lot more like an exploitation movie. Um, and a lot of the special effects and practical effects feel very real and raw, which helps make the movie feel a lot edgier. But it is definitely, for a movie about policemen who become heroes and have to work with criminals who also become heroes, it is certainly a very anti-police movie or anti-police brutality movie that takes aim and criticizes implicitly a lot of gang violence and the police response to said gang violence, which, for a movie that is going to turn 50 next year, has not aged a day in terms of its relevance to what's going on in LA.
Yeah. LA, he he lives in LA or lived in LA. Is that why he has like so many of his settings in LA, or what caused him
Oh,
to
like
do that?
Hollywood's like where they make movies.
Yeah. But did he live around there? Is that why he's so interested in it, or
I think he has like 10 houses. I'm sure one of them's in LA. He's not from LA.
he was
He
born in
went
New
to
York?
USC.
Yeah. I'm just curious. Like, obviously, like LA is, you know, at the center of
That's
many.
where they make the pictures.
I get it, but you could have had like Assault on Precinct 13 take place in New York. There's obviously like other stories like Escape from New York is obviously New York, and then there's Escape from LA. I'm more asking like I wonder what his, yeah, just write what you know, I guess, is the philosophy that he's going with there.
I think it was right what you observe. Like this is more film about social commentary than like direct experience of like gang violence.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's stylized in a way very similar to like he is a known huge fan of Howard Hawks, and in certain ways this has similarities to plenty of Howard Hawks movies where,
Mm,
the sheriffs have to kill the cattle rustlers, but instead of it being a true Western, because LA isn't like that anymore, it's a police in the urban environment.
right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, this one, same cinematographer as previous movie, and the last one he would make with him before working with Dean Cundy, who was one of the guys he would work with on the next like half of his career.
That is a very strange name.
Dean Cundy,
Yeah,
Cundey.
I don't like that name. No,
It, it's better than Dean Cunty, which is what it certainly could
that's
be.
what I was thinking as you were working through his name. Have you seen Eyes of Laura Mars? Next movie.
That's not a real movie.
He
No, I'm
wrote that movie. He didn't direct
talking
it.
about theatrical movies here.
All right, jumping to his next movie, a little movie known as Halloween, 1978. Director, he directed, wrote it, and composed uh, the movie, which is worth noting because, as we talked about, I think when he has more control over the movie, it certainly like all kind of like combines together and it's more cohesive, and you can see that it all aligns with his vision, and that is certainly true for the Halloween soundtrack, working with yeah, all of the elements of horror and suspense, um, suspense more so than horror, but certainly a groundbreaking movie in a lot of different ways. Most notably, at least for myself, when I first saw it with the like sort of handheld camera, especially at the beginning, which he did take that concept from predecessors of directors, but implemented it into this kind of campy in a way story, but yeah, suspense riddled uh horror story. Is this an original story of his, or was it adapted from something else?
No, he wrote it.
Gotta give credit where credit's due. That's fantastic.
Yeah, he wrote it with Deborah Hill, who he also wrote The Fog and a couple other of his movies with.
1978. People forget just how old this movie is.
Yeah, he'll be 50 in 3 years.
Damn.
Yeah, it owes quite a debt of gratitude to some other early slasher movies. Probably most notably Black Christmas, but maybe some Italian slasher movies. But in general, it is like heralded as the movie that really popularized the slasher genre,
Hmm.
which hack filmmakers in the 80s would make a metaphorical and literal killing off of,
Yeah.
and kill the genre, which it took a matter of like 3 or 4 years before the genre was bloated and commercialized to the point of being unrecognizable from stuff like Halloween. But what makes Halloween a special movie is obviously the creepy atmosphere, which is like a perfect confluence of Carpenter's really economic storytelling, like being able to create atmosphere with very simple imagery, which I think is amplified by Dean Cundy's camera work. And to your point, a lot of that is handheld, which is great. Uh, it's a pretty low budget movie, and so they do a lot with a little, which I'm always a big fan of. The score obviously is extremely notable and is still famous today. It was a huge hit when it came out, and it continues to be a huge hit. Grossed, what, 13 sequels or something? Just a
Yes.
disgusting number of movies. The most recent trilogy of which was, I think, pretty commercially viable, which is great. Those are just checks for Carpenter. Carpenter was always a big fan of when people would remake his movies because he would notably say, "Here's my hand. Put the check in my hand."
Just make sure you put my name at the beginning.
Yep. Yeah, he does. He does like to get credit too, but that's how you get paid as a executive producer.
Hmm. Um, yeah, I mean it's kind of impossible to overstate the influence of Halloween on cinema and horror movies nowadays. I hope that there's more of a shift back into the sort of practical effects as far as like indie filmmaking goes, but like you said, I mean, it's completely like overwrought and overdone and bloated in a lot of ways. There are a lot of people who are coming up with unique concepts, but I do think that you kind of need to come back to the lower budget element by constraining yourself, and that will result in better in a better product, as it were, as opposed to being like overproduced and overdone and kind of like less is more, I guess.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think that's what killed the genre. The endless spawning of sequels is what killed the genre.
Yeah, I guess that's what you were talking about, but
Yeah.
I I see both of those things.
Well,
The
those new Halloween movies did like try to keep things relatively straightforward with practical effects. They're not filled with too much CGI.
Right, but at the end of the day, it also comes back to what you're saying. Do we need a 15th iteration of this?
Well, we don't need any more movies. AI made sure that's over. But mostly the
Oh
the
dear
the big
God.
thing is that yeah, I mean AI is better than John Carpenter making movies. Like the big thing is that what difference is there in a slasher movie today than a slasher movie in the 70s? And fundamentally, it's almost nothing. It's why genre filmmaking gets less credit than, you know, art house or dramatic filmmaking because those are always exploring the differences of emotion and human life in the face of modernity, where genre filmmaking is just we know what it is, play the hits, keep it simple. And slasher films have pretty much always done that, with only a handful of notable examples from the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Because other than, a few like satirical films that have come up since Halloween, most slasher films in the wake of this have paled in comparison and have not really breathed any new life into a completely dead genre, which is ironic given that Michael Myers, the boogeyman protagonist, cannot be killed. Just like the genre just keeps popping back up.
Yeah, just like his 15th and 16th and 17th, and like God knows how many more of those movies that will pop up.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. We didn't mention, but Jamie Lee Curtis. This is kind of what like fully launched her career in this movie, and she's fantastic in it. Yeah, she's great. Um, Das unsichtbare Auge. That's just what popped up on Wikipedia for someone's watching me. Next movie.
That's we're just the next movie is The Fog. Again, I have nothing to say
You don't
about
want to talk
like
about that,
fake TV
or
movies.
Elvis, the movie,
I don't
presented
want
by
to
ABC. All right, sorry, The Fog. Jump to The
I
Fog.
don't want to talk about the 3-hour Elvis biopic. I don't want to talk about Warner Brothers TV original Someone's Watching Me.
Okay, The Fog. We gotta keep going. The Fog. I still haven't seen this movie actually, which is
Yeah,
really
this
bad.
is the same way that Halloween is like a great vibe movie to watch on Halloween. The Fog is the same way.
Damn, I'll
It
probably
just
watch it
carries a
this year then.
great atmosphere with it. It's like a great late night movie. Just has a feeling of creepiness, and I wouldn't say outright horror, and at times it does get into some trademark John Carpenter schlock, especially with the ghost pirates, but um
Excuse me.
yeah, The Fog is about some it's the plots of John Carpenter's movies are very simple. Like we didn't even say what it is for Halloween, but it literally just man escapes from prison, kills some people. That's it. There's no plot. There's no real depth. There's definitely some like metaphors about coming of age for the Jamie Lee Curtis character, and you know there's some depth to the film, but yeah, but we're not really diving into the depths of these films, and I'm sure at some point we'll talk about Halloween in more depth. But yeah, The Fog's plot is also very straightforward. It's just there's a town, a coastal town, and then fog rolls up, and there's ghost pirates in the fog, and they need to get their gold.
I mean, this is a continuous thread with him that like you summarize the plot, and some of his funniest plots are ones that sound like it shouldn't work, and you're like, why the fuck would I watch this movie? And then you sit down and watch it, and you're like, oh shit, okay, I get it. And then there's other ones where you're like, wait, this shit should be a good movie, and then you sit down and you're like, where the hell did this thing go wrong?
Well, very similar to Howard Hawks, what makes the best of John Carpenter's movies work is the simplicity of the story being told allows for the depth of societal critiques through the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So John Carpenter is very skeptical of power, and I wouldn't say the government in general, but definitely of like the corruption of historical imbalances of power in the US. Uh, and The Fog is probably the one that gets at that idea the most clearly. But that's all like implicit and subtextual. It's not explicitly textual.
Yeah.
Because if you just watch the movie with, you know, your eyes glazed over, it's just a movie about ghost pirates, and there's nothing deeper.
Exactly. I mean, we should probably talk a little bit more about The Fog.
Um,
What do you like about it or appreciate it? Do you like it?
yeah, I think this is a great movie.
Why?
I, it it has an extremely unique atmosphere. That atmosphere is brought about by, you know, the use of special effects, especially with the way that fog rolls in and lighting within the fog. There's like 3 or 4 particularly good suspenseful scenes that are built up really well and punctuated well, which I think highlight Carpenter's ability to expand on the suspense he was working on in Halloween. Part of the plot unravels a little bit as they utilize Jamie Lee Curtis, who's also in this one,
Hmm.
as characters kind of move from like point A to point B to point C. Stuff kind of gets muddled up, but in general, it all works together well. And there's a satisfying conclusion.
Gotcha.
Pirates get their gold,
Uh-oh.
like gold. This is, I believe, the first of his movies that has just like a random preacher character, which seems to be an archetype that then pops up in a bunch of his movies. John Carpenter is definitely not a religious man, and I don't know that he's explicitly super critical of religion, but he does just always have like these random like, oh, it's Father Bob or whatever. I don't know his name in this movie. Oh, Father Patrick.
What the hell?
Hmm.
Yeah, that is very strange.
But yeah, again, cinematography by Dean Cundey, which is gorgeous. I mean, the movie looks really good. I'm certain that this movie has received at least one solid remaster, which probably helps make the colors pop even more.
Oh,
Yep,
definitely.
4K reissue a few years ago.
Holy
There's
hell.
been so many companies that do these 4K reissues that are just compounding on the Blu-ray reissues and remasters. But this one's definitely a cult classic, whereas Halloween is just a classic. This one is not as enjoyed, but it is still enjoyed today. This one was also good enough to receive a reboot, which was, or not a reboot, a remake, which is unfortunately just an abysmally bad movie. Unwatchable.
The fog, like it's just called the fog too, or it's not the mist, right? The mist is something
It's
else.
nope, just called The Fog.
Oh,
Yeah,
damn.
very, very bad. Do not watch the remake of The Fog.
Got it.
No, The Mist is a Stephen King story adapted into a movie.
Oh, that's right. Uh,
No, that's Lovecraftian monsters. The Fog is ghost pirates.
oh, okay. Um, Next up we have Escape from New York, right?
Hmm.
Did we watch this one together?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a fun ride. It's certainly a very man, what's the word? Uh I'm trying to think of the word, like everything is like all clearly aligned with like one end goal in mind. Obviously that's to escape from New York, but uh oh nice, you get a cool Ernest Borgnine.
Oh yeah, the cast in this one's great. Donald Pleasance is back from being in Halloween. Uh, Isaac Hayes is in this. Harry Dean Stanton.
Lee Van Cleef.
Yeah, Lee Van Cleef is like,
Damn.
I don't think he's the president. I think he's like in charge of like the police or something.
Damn, I gotta watch this one again. So
Do
yeah,
anything but
as we were discussing about um, Escape from New York, it just stopped recording. So we were discussing.
I'm not saying we're being censors, but my lawyer did tell me to not say a few things, so we're gonna have to record it again.
Yeah. So in talking about Escape from New York, we discussed how this is kind of like a gritty um, escape here, and we talked about how it all kind of like culminates into this singular sort of vision that Carpenter had, and as you said, it does kind of also remind you of other stories that he has, like They Live, and there are elements of The Thing in it. I think you mentioned another one as well. I can't remember. But yeah, ultimately, Kurt Russell, who he did work with before in Elvis, is at the fore of this movie, and this iconic, gritty, rebellious vigilante character of Snake. What's his last name?
Pliskin.
Liskin. Yeah. Long-haired, one-eyed, muscle-bound man with gun. You can see the tendrils of that and the effect in like video games nowadays. You mentioned what was it, Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah, yeah.
But you
The
can see,
Kojima who made those games explicitly said that Solid Snake is based off of Snake Plissken. I mean, they have the same name.
yeah. But even like even other characters without the same name, like you can see that effect in video games nowadays. But yeah, to your point, obviously John Carpenter then just puts his hand out and is like, "Give me that sweet, sweet, sweet dough." Money
I
talks.
think I was wrong, and he actually didn't get paid any like residuals for the Metal Gear Solid games, but
Damn, that's messed up.
I'm sure him and his like 8 houses don't give a shit.
Yeah. Um.
But yeah, this is it's the same Tungi as the cinematographer and John Carpenter working on the music. He co-wrote it with Nick Castle, who he had already previously worked on quite a few movies. In particular, Castle plays Michael Myers.
Gotcha.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely an iconic character, an iconic movie. I think it's more than the sum of its parts because so much of the movie is kind of like campy, as you said, and schlocky and um, generally silly. But themes of the movie are very serious, and that's what I said before was relating to the sort of indifferent, laconic ending of the movie, which is echoed in The Thing and They Live and later Escape from LA, where Pliskin's character is just giving the middle finger to an establishment that he sees as not befitting or benefiting the people it is supposed to serve.
Yeah, and I guess what I was struggling to connect that to is also his like anti-cop sentiment in a lot of ways that he has throughout a lot of his movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Where like Snake is not, he's not like the embodiment or foil of being anti-cop, but you could definitely make the case for that, given the circumstance, right? Given the situation.
Yeah, I mean he's some sort of offshoot of the lone gunman that would have come out of westerns.
Yeah.
Like Carpenter's love of and understanding of Howard Hawks movies and the way that Howard Hawks was slowly adapting, the sort of story theory of what a hero is and what the role of like a hero is in law and more broadly, westerns are all about like what is the role of man in society and how does man interact with society. And by the time Carpenter was even making movies in the late 70s and early 80s, like that question had functionally been answered. Like westerns had run out of ideas and had killed that certain type of hero. The answer was like the lone gunman cannot coexist in a world run by capitalism. But that's neither here nor there because basically Carpenter's movies and worlds all exist in that post-capital landscape where these heroes are like indifferent towards it, and their indifference and apathy really embodies it to a certain type of nihilism, and it's like heroic nihilism, and that's what I think Russell's characters always embody in Carpenter's films. That They Live might be the best example of it, where it isn't Kurt Russell, even though it feels like Rowdy Piper probably should have been Kurt Russell in that movie. He's still very funny in it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about any of the movie? Well, we definitely need to talk about The Thing, but do you want to jump to They Live just because it is kind of like a nice launching off point from Escape from New York and then circle back?
We can talk about Escape from LA first, which is a sign of things to come for Carpenter's career in general. Um, because Escape from LA is not a good movie. Um, or Escape from New York is a good movie. It's like interestingly written. It has all of Carpenter's hallmarks. Like the action is kind of whatever, but everything kind of comes together. Escape from LA is not like that. Um, it still is like a dynamic movie. Like it's still mostly well made, but there's really, really bad CGI. There's stuff that takes you out of the movie. It doesn't quite flow together very nicely, and it is like apocalyptically nihilistic. Like you can tell that Carpenter like really didn't give a shit. Because the end of the movie is like Pliskin destroys all electronics in the entire world, and then just like he doesn't actually give the finger, but he's basically just giving the finger to the audience, saying "fuck you."
Yeah, I was also saying if you wanted to talk about They Live Now and then go back um,
Yeah,
before
yeah,
we
we
get
can.
to Halloween 2 and The Thing, which I have my eyes on.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is worth talking about in terms of the Apocalypse trilogy because it's a loosely connected trilogy of films which can be talked about together pretty easily. And They Live is like runs parallel to it.
Yeah. Um, do you have any interest in talking about Halloween 2 before?
I will tell you a story I know about Halloween 2, and that'll be all I have to say. John Carpenter was commissioned to write a script for Halloween 2 because of the popularity of Halloween
Oh,
1.
right. He
So in a
didn't direct
weekend, he
this.
got
I see.
nearly blackout drunk, wrote the whole script in like, I don't know, 30 hours, submitted it, and then did this. Check, please.
Got it. Right. He didn't direct it. Okay, moving on.
No, no,
1982's The
he
Thing.
just check. Give me the
Um,
check. Did not
speaking
want to
speaking
make
of
us.
getting blackout drunk, The Thing, 1982. Uh, this is probably both you and my favorite movie on this, unless you hold Halloween in higher acclaim as far as favorites. I just know how much you and I rant and rave about this movie. Yeah,
Oh no, this is for sure my favorite Carpenter movie and an all-time favorite in general.
I would definitely say it's a perfect, if not near perfect movie. Which I know is not an unpopular take. But people's biggest critiques of the movie seems to come down to the practical effects because they have seen too many CGI movies, and then they're like, well, clearly you can see that that's not a spider alien. Rah, 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 rah. Relax. The practical
Movie
effects in
has
this movie
this
are top
movie
notch.
has notable haters. Like it's considered a classic today, but it was a resolute failure upon release. It was hated by critics and audiences alike. Uh it's become a classic and not even a cult classic, like a true classic.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely still haters of this movie who think it's too campy. Like that type of hero I was describing that Carpenter loves, which is that evolution of that sort of Western mythologized hero, is just not enjoyed by everyone. Those are the type of people that either ignore the film's nihilistic messaging and just view it as like a hero triumphing or fighting against some unstoppable force, or they like that it's laconic and they don't quite understand the inherent satire or darkness of the character because this is like a really bleak fucking movie.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it is.
But I felt the need to say that not because like it makes us special for loving this beloved movie, but because I know that this movie has haters. Like there is a contingent of people that did not like this movie when it came out and don't like this movie now. And those to me those people are crazy because this movie has like the greatest practical effects ever. Uh, a, an atmosphere I've never seen recreated, no matter how hard people have tried. an all-time great adaptation of the Who Goes There story, and somehow a direct adaptation of one of Howard Hawks' movies.
Yeah, what is the name of that one? It is also just called The Thing, or is it a longer
Uh,
one like The Thing from Another
no, it's
Planet?
the thing from another world.
The Thing from Another World, that's right.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly, he didn't do the score of the movie, but like it still hits like as well as Halloween, I would say, in building atmosphere and tension. And
No,
as
instead, the score's done by Ennio Morricone, the greatest film composer ever.
yeah, I mean, given the choice, I would probably also hand off the reins to him. Um, but in at any rate, the score of this movie has also been aped in so many other movies as well. That and like the camera work, like just moving throughout the, what is it called, the base, right, the Arctic base that they're in, Antarctic base. Um, yeah, kind of reminds me of The Shining, actually. Now that I think about it, like we're like weaving your way through the hallways as you're following like the POV of the dog or whomever it is that you're following at a certain point. But yeah, it's got that great element of like a bottle story where you're trapped with all the characters and they're trying to figure out who the murderer is. But in this case, it's not the murderer; it's who's the thing,
Who's the thing?
who's this weird thing, and they're trying to also figure out what's really going on with that. And it's so rewatchable. So many iconic scenes. A
Just
lot
want to
of,
go up to my shack and get drunk.
yeah, that's what I was referencing, talking about the getting blackout drunk. Um, yeah, it opens with Kurt Russell playing chess against a computer, and then like
Eating bitch.
calls it a cheating bitch, and then pours alcohol in the like mainframe after getting beaten by the robot.
Well, the robot does cheat. It makes an illegal move, which, yeah, then echoes the end of the movie where the thing is capable of powers he didn't know it had, so he just blows up the whole compound and is willing to kill himself to kill the thing.
Yeah, like if you, that's one of the beauties of the movie is that the movie tells you exactly what it's gonna do. It puts it right in front of your face and is like, yeah, this this is how the character reacts to shit, and then it just does that on a larger scale.
Oh, and then especially compounded by the fact that the opening scene of the movie is the Norwegians in the helicopter chasing the dog, and then just when they arrive, they say in Norwegian, "That's an alien! Don't touch that thing! That's an alien!" They just blow them up in classic American fashion. They just immediately assassinate both Norwegians, and the helicopter explodes.
Foreigner doesn't speak English. Kablamo.
Well, also the foreigners did have their guns drawn and tried to shoot them, and it is the Norwegians' fault that they blew up their own helicopter. But
Yeah, but that,
the
oh man,
ideas are all there.
that opening scene is just so incredible. Dog sprinting over the hellscape of Antarctica, just pure white with a like black form like running like over top of it and
Oh yeah.
blasting like at the dog. You don't know anything that's happening. It's just perfect in media res intro.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an incredible screenplay, um, adapted perfectly by Carpenter. I mean, everyone's at the top of their form. There's a great cast of supporting characters like Wilford Brimley, Keith David. A handful of these other guys are notable character actors that are not that famous now, but obviously, yeah, the score is incredible. I think this is the peak of the collaboration between Carpenter and Cundy in terms of Carpenter's ability to direct camera movement and eye movement as a result of camera movement, which sustains a certain amount of tension and focuses you to look in certain directions while something is happening, which leads you to build up that entrenched sense of paranoia that is really unique to this movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say that works perfectly with what the plot is and also the suspense and tension here. I would probably say that I don't know why this movie came to mind, um, but actually I really see elements in It Follows of The Thing with the camera movement and the eye, like capturing the tension with and paranoia of like where your eyes are moving on screen because you're trying to figure out who is the thing, you're trying to figure out where the thing is, and in It Follows you're constantly trying to figure out who is the bad thing that's moving towards the person who's going to try to kill them. And that constant panning of the camera I think is like definitely clearly taken from this movie as well as others.
Oh yeah, and as a tangent, the director David Robert Mitchell of It Follows is definitely his two biggest influences as a horror filmmaker were John Carpenter and Wes Craven.
Mm-hmm.
I mean Wes Craven just because there's like shot for shot stuff stolen from Wes Craven's movies, but you can tell a lot of those ideas are indebted just as equally to Carpenter's direction.
Yeah, obviously we could have an entire episode just about The Thing. But where do you want to go from here?
We can stay on track with the Apocalypse trilogy with Prince of Darkness and In the Mouth of Madness. So the thing, yeah, this is where I guess we'll start to jump around a little bit. But yeah, the thing was a critical and commercial failure, which was the first for Carpenter. Like audiences didn't get it. There were a number of reasons why this happened. Um, Partially one was that like people didn't want a bummer movie; they wanted a happy movie because um, there's no nice way to say this. Americans in the 80s were idiots. They wanted E.T., they didn't want the thing. They just wanted the happy thing that required no thought, no critical thinking whatsoever, no re-examination of values or characters, just nice alien gets saved by the nice kids. He phones home. And unfortunately, the failure of this movie is partially what would set Carpenter down a road of increased nihilism and anger. But we'll save that for later. We'll move on to Prince of Darkness. Have you seen this one?
I have not. No.
This came out a few years later. He did make a few movies in between. Um, but this one is loosely related in like an apocalypse trilogy to the thing. Basically, a bunch of physics students find something weird in the basement of like a church, like a monastery. It's basically like the devil, and then a bunch of creepy stuff happens, and then like the devil is kind of unleashed on the world.
Oh, Jesus.
This one takes a little bit longer to get going as a movie. Like, it's not as well structured of a screenplay. It's not as well structured of a story in general. It's a lot more Lovecraftian, which would then also go on to be true of In the Mouth of Madness. The cast of this movie does not feature any like particularly big name other than Donald Pleasance. Um, and I guess Alice Cooper, who is randomly in the movie for like 2 minutes.
What the hell? Yeah, that's really random.
Uh, this is I mean, there's some interesting parts of this movie with regards to like its themes and messaging, the same way that Carpenter always was able to do. I'm not sure it all comes through particularly well. Um, but yeah, I don't have too much more to say about it. Like, I think the best bits of the movie are as good and visually interesting and suspenseful as anything Carpenter made, but they're not sustained from start to finish.
Gotcha.
This would also be the first movie that he would make with Gary Kibbe instead of Dean Cundy as cinematographer.
Hmm.
But the cinematography looks very similar. Like you
Okay.
really can't tell that Cundy is not there anymore.
I was
Part
gonna
of that is
ask if
because
there's
of
any drop off, but
no, like the lighting, like the Carpenter look, like the lighting has a certain look to it. Um, the music is still by Carpenter, so it all kind of is still the same. Uh, but I would recommend it. This is certainly not a perfect movie. It's a little slower paced, but it's still like a good creepy movie.
gotcha.
Decent horror. Uh, and then the next one is In the Mouth of Madness, which is a more direct Lovecraftian adaptation. Like if the previous two movies have Lovecraftian elements to the way in which like an apocalypse would befall humanity, this one is like pretty explicitly Lovecraftian. Don't think this one was written by a Carpenter. Um, but it stars Sam Neill
Oh, nice.
as a guy who goes crazy. He like goes in and out of books. The books make him crazy. This one actually has good CGI, unlike pretty much all of Carpenter's movies that would follow. Um, this one doesn't have the same pacing issues or structural issues, but it is just a very weird movie, and ultimately doesn't really have a strong point.
Hmm.
There's not like a good theme, and I think that's something inherent of a lot of like Lovecraftian adaptations or just Lovecraftian stories in general. Is they tend to just be like the aesthetic for horror's sake,
Gotcha.
and like the attempt to make films in the Lovecraft pantheon of like visually showing the unknowable doesn't really always work.
Gotcha.
Um, but this one is more focused because it's just about a guy going insane. But I would recommend it. I don't have too much to say about the plot, without either like just spoiling it or talking about certain visuals in it. It has more memorable visuals, I think, than Prince of Darkness.
Okay. Yeah, both of them have been on my list for a while. Just haven't gotten to it.
But yeah, I would recommend it. I like it well enough.
What do you want to circle back to then?
We could do They Live, which is like similarly apocalyptic.
You
Like
don't.
all three of those movies have negative endings. Like the negative presence or entity essentially wins or is fails to be defeated.
What about
Uh,
Christine?
we could circle back and just go chronologically.
Did you talk about Starman?
No.
Okay. Oh, you were talking about E.T. in regards to something else. I forgot. Um, yeah, I haven't seen
Yeah.
Christine. Christine is this is Stephen King.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. A loser nerd um, refurbishes an evil car that then kills people. It's Stephen King, so it's not like there's not a lot of depth. Like
Stop
there's a little
asking
bit of
questions. You're asking too
yeah.
many
I mean,
questions.
there's that same amount of depth that I referenced earlier for like how Halloween isn't just about a boogeyman. It's actually about like a girl becoming a woman. In the same way, Christine is about a boy becoming a man. But it's weirder. It's kind of like there's some. It's not as good as David Cronenberg's Crash, which
Yeah,
makes me dislike it more
it
because there
definitely
is like
reminded me of that. That movie
the,
is fucking wild.
yeah, and at some point we'll do a David Cronenberg episode because Cronenberg I think is a significantly better artist than John Carpenter, but I'm not certain that he's a better director. I think he just is a better artist, but that's a distinction we'll get to another day.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie is very straightforward. There's just a lot of scenes where the car runs people over, and and like magically repairs. The last 15 minutes of the movie is just gibberish schlock. Like literally, they just use like a bulldozer to destroy this evil car.
I love the description on like I pulled up the movie poster. How do you kill something that can't possibly be alive? And it's just a car with headlights. Like this gets back
Yeah.
to the like concept of the movie itself is like, okay, like maybe like sign me up for this. I don't know what I'm getting into. And then the last 15 minutes, god damn it, John. God damn it.
I I think it's a fine movie. I mean, this belongs in a it's certainly good. It's certainly well enough made. I'm not in love with the story, and so there's nothing inherently interesting about the visual adaptation. I'm not like a car guy. Like, I fucking love cars.
Yeah,
Uh,
fair.
so like if you just like can't contain yourself when people talk about Plymouth furries or furies, then sorry, furries. I don't know what a Plymouth furry is, probably. At the risk
Oh,
of anyway, Plymouth Furies, which is just some kind of shitty car from the 50s. If those do it for you, then you'll love this movie. Otherwise, it's just what it sounds like. It's a movie about a car that kills people. It's better than Rubber. I'll give you that. It's better than Rubber, which is about a sentient tire that kills people.
oh my god. Okay, Starman is a movie from 1984. I seem to recall this one. This one is kind of like a sweet movie, isn't it?
Yeah, this one's like the kid movie, the kiddie movie. This one's for kids. It's like a nice, like science fiction romance.
Do you recommend it?
Yeah, I like this one.
Okay.
Personally, I like Starman more than I like E.T.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, but I am a notable E.T. hater. That phone home shit doesn't play for me.
Do you what okay, let's stay on track here. I had a lot of questions, but it's okay. What I haven't seen Starman, but I have wanted to watch this for a while.
This one is the first example of Carpenter doing a real studio movie.
Ah,
Like this is like a real studio
I
movie. Like
see.
it has a bigger budget than his other previous movies. Um, and it doesn't have elements of like horror. I guess he was chosen to. I think part of the reason, and this I'm sure has been proven somewhere that Carpenter talked about or has been written in some autobiography, that I assume he did Starman because he wanted to be able to pivot out of only making horror and at the fact that like the thing didn't perform well commercially. And so he probably figured like, oh, these stupid saccharine audiences just want the ET shit. I'll give them an ET type movie.
Gotcha. Was this movie a success?
Yeah, relatively. It was like not a smashing success. I think it just like made a small profit. Um, it's not particularly well known now. It's not like a cult classic. Um, yeah, it's not particularly well known for much of anything.
Damn it. Still haven't seen the next movie on this list. Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh yeah, Big Trouble in Little China is another. I wouldn't call it kiddie because it's like definitely not for kids, but it's too goofy to not be kiddie. So it is kind of a kids movie. This movie is crazy. Like Kurt Russell's basically running around Chinatown, and there's like magic. So it's almost like a wuxia movie, like the
Mm,
Wire martial arts stuff, but
yeah.
it's not because it's just Kurt Russell with like a gun, just a machine gun. Lots of gunshots in this one. This one has become a cult classic. It
Yeah.
failed when it came out. This movie was like just too weird to succeed. Like it was just this movie is wacky. Like it has elements of like a Miyazaki movie mixed with like a John Carpenter action movie.
Dear God.
Like it's if you just took like random bits of villains from like Howl's Moving Castle and stuffed them inside of Assault on Precinct 13, you get this movie. But this movie is like visually incredible. I think this is a really good action movie. Uh, in terms of like every single it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, like it's constantly moving, like it's just perfectly paced. This is similar, but because it's weirder, it didn't hit right.
Yeah,
But I recommend this to everyone.
I think that kind of shows why it is a cult classic, though, is the pacing and the I mean, like I said, I haven't seen the movie, but the pacing and the use of color and action are what drives the movie, and the funky sort of like offbeatness of it. Would you say the movie is self-aware as well?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think that
Like this movie knows it's very silly, but Kurt Russell's character is similar to that one I was describing before, but he's a little more of a standard action hero. He's less like fuck you because this movie's not rated R, it's rated PG.
and that's that I feel like that kind of like is part of the bit too, of like this is a funny movie but we have this action guy in it, and that like clash, the juxtaposition there directly makes it funny, just inherently makes it funny. And that's kind of what I was trying to drive at, is I would imagine that's what makes it a cult classic and why people return to it and like find it hilarious nowadays as well. And also one of the reasons why when it came out, people were just like, "What the hell am I watching here? This is a little too much."
Yes. Oh, most certainly. This would be his last movie he made with Dean Cundy.
Oh, gotcha.
Um,
Speaking of
yeah.
cult movies, They Live, which we talked briefly about. You mentioned
Mhm.
Roddy Ray or Roddy Piper. My God,
Rowdy Piper.
just this massive WWE meathead guy who was basically trying to be John Cena in movies before John Cena.
Yeah, essentially.
The plot of this movie, to kind of like quickly walk our way through this, a guy um basically has inklings that something is wrong, and there's like hints that the apocalypse is coming, basically. And he comes across these magical sunglasses that allow him to see the truth, of the world, basically. And it shows what advertisements really do. It shows what in reality other people are. Yeah, completely anti capitalist and consumerist movie, which, if you know anything about Nolan and I, that is right up our alley. Speaking of
Well, it's not
alleys,
even anti-capitalist. It like Carpenter's not really an anti-capitalist. He is just against like mass media and corporate corruption. I think that would be more fair to say.
yeah, okay, that I see
Because
what
he
you're
is like
saying.
explicitly a commercial filmmaker who tried his best to like market it. Like you don't make John Carpenter's The Thing, John
Yeah,
Carpenter's Halloween,
right.
if you're anti-capitalist, but he is like against a certain type of corporate corruption, and um, this movie is explicitly the one that hates on what you're saying, like mass media, and it focuses on like subliminal messaging. It also just says that the world is ruled by aliens.
Yeah, that there's a certain cabal of people that are aliens. Um, yeah, there's a group of people that are aliens. That is what I meant by the word cabal. Relax over there. Um, and
My
in this
boy.
movie, speaking of alleys, there is a really really incredible sequence where Roddy Roddy Piper is fighting a guy with like garbage cans in like the back of an alley, and it goes on for like 3 minutes too long. With
Yeah,
and
Keith David.
Oh yeah, it's Keith David. That's right. And they're just beating the absolute shit out of each other with garbage cans, and it's just like a sequence out of like something like WWE, and it's so funny.
Well, yeah, you have to. It's an important scene in the movie because this movie is an hour and a half long, and that scene is like 11 minutes of them just fighting, which which on the surface is like, oh, they put the wrestling guy in the movie so they could do this dumb fight scene. But my interpretation of it is that like the whole point of the scene is that Roddy Piper's character is like this aimless working class drifter who's meant to represent like the poor white working class of America. And he's trying to force this poor black working class guy and Keith David to see the truth, which is that the world is fucked up and the ruling class hates them both. And so as they fight amongst themselves, if they agree to team up, then they can defeat their evil overlords. Which is why so much time is dedicated to an otherwise like badly shot and choreographed fight scene with these guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, another apocalyptic ending where given the option between saving himself and taking the blue pill and going back to the way things were, he decides to blow up the relay station that has been infecting people's brains so everyone can see the aliens at the cost of his own life, thus dooming the aliens to their ability to rule Earth.
Amazing.
Yeah, this one at least
came
had
here
a
to
smaller
chew
budget.
bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum.
Yeah, and great.
Pure schlock. Like this movie is like top tier schlock, and the beauty of it being top tier schlock is it is self-aware enough of that fact, like with the fucking garbage can sequence, but then also like is trying to do something more than just kablamo, chew bubblegum, kick ass, which I think is like the beauty of John Carpenter is his best movies are self-aware and they acknowledge that fact and they do something more than just simply being schlock. Which
Yeah,
I think he has like a very solid brick, if not cornerstone piece of whatever schlock wall you and I eventually will be building on this podcast.
it is worth noting that this movie was reviled upon release. It was roasted by critics.
That does not surprise me in the least.
Particularly because this came out in 87 at the height of Reagan's administration as president, near the end of it. And Reagan, remember, is a beloved president, even though Reagan was one of the worst presidents that's ever existed. And, the 80s, if you critically think about the 80s were a disaster. If you accept the 80s on their surface, the same way you would a movie like They Live, then you go, oh, the 80s is when Americans got a lot of money because of trickle down. So yeah, the critics, of course, hated a movie that was critical of mass media.
Yeah, not to get too
But
political here, but this is not a pro Reagan podcast.
no, Reagan sucks. This is a pro Nixon podcast. I'm a huge Nixon fan. Hate Reagan.
Are we going to talk about Memoirs of an Invisible Man?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Just wasn't sure.
There's not a lot to say about it. It's
Dear
a goofy
God,
comedy
this
movie.
cast. What the hell?
Yeah, Chevy Chase, Sam Neill is the villain. Michael McKean plays his like friend.
Stephen
Daryl Hannah is the
Tobolowsky.
love interest. Yeah, Stephen Tobolowsky is like Sam Neill's CIA boss.
Oh my God.
This is like a farce, like a really silly, like almost a road movie in a way. Chevy Chase turns invisible in an accident and then is pursued by evil government forces led by Sam Neill because Sam Neill wants to use him as an assassin to kill like the Soviets.
What the?
But
What?
but Chevy Chase just wants to fuck Daryl Hannah.
I mean, okay. Kind of fair, but invisible, man.
It's these types of movies are not made anymore. They're high concept comedies. So like a number of set pieces in the movie are based around how do we make it so there's something funny with the fact that this guy's invisible, which often just includes clothes falling off of something in space.
I was gonna say, I
Uh,
feel like most of the scenes are I don't know anything about the movie, but looking at the poster and based on what you said, most of the scenes is just how do we make fun of Invisible Guy or show some type of tits or ass to move the plot around or make a joke. And then the rest of the plot kind of unfolds with CIA. Did you say Russia? In order to try to kill someone? He's
yeah, Sam Neill is like an evil like wet works guy. He's
okay.
like it's a bad government man.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this one is it's not a bad movie. It's kind of silly. It's like kind of likable. Um, but there's nothing to it. It's just a no strings attached comedy. It is critical again of the CIA and the government, so has that going for it. But this one has elements of like, oh, you can tell it's kind of a John Carpenter movie, but mostly this is just like standard studio fare. Could have been made by anyone. There's some elements of it that are Carpenter, but not really.
Yeah.
Big box office bomb. Didn't work.
So that was
Uh,
1992. Next we have Body Bags.
it's all downhill from here, folks.
Okay,
It's
that's
yeah.
fine.
Unfortunately,
I
Carpenter's career has hit its peak.
I'm not saying to end the episode right here, but I am on a time crunch right now as well. So I guess given the menu options of what is next, how would you like to proceed? Probably need to
But,
talk about
but
vampires.
Body Bags is a anthology TV movie, so
Okay,
I'm gonna
skip.
skip that.
We talked about
Yeah,
In the Mouth of Madness.
I would recommend Body Bags though if you can find it. I think it's on
Really?
Showtime. Yeah,
The
I like
cover
horror anthology
the
movies.
cover of
They're
it looks like
goofy.
Rob Zombie.
I don't think he was involved in it, but
No, it just looks like
Rob,
him. I mean,
Rob Zombie's music was in Escape from L.A. I do remember that.
oh shit. What the hell is Village of the Damned?
Yeah, that's the next one. Since we already talked about In the Mouths of Madness, Village of the Damned is
Christopher
about.
Reeve.
Yeah,
Excuse
this
me.
was Christopher Reeve's last movie before he became a vegetable. Sad.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, Christopher Reeve is like the good guy, and he has to fight against like Mark Hamill, the bad guy. This movie is like weirdly about abortion, but the stuff doesn't all come together. It's kind of like Children of the Corn, but instead of them just being evil kids, they're like alien kids. And there is a metaphor in here about abortion. Um, like stillborn kids,
oh boy.
miscarriages, critical and commercial failure. This movie sucked. This one there's nothing like really to love about it. It lacks a lot of Carpenter's like everything we described about Carpenter that works. This movie lacks. The music is uninspired by Carpenter. The screenplay doesn't make any sense. It is an adaptation of another movie called Village of the Damned,
Yeah, I see
which
that.
Carpenter was a fan of. And Carpenter, I'm pretty sure, like sought out studio funding to make the movie and then clearly hacked it in. So I don't know. I think at this point, Carpenter just cared less in his career.
Gotcha.
But this is not a good movie, and I would not recommend it. You really need to be a dedicated Carpenter fan or fan of this material in particular to watch it and like it. I do want to say now before I forget, because I just have not mentioned it. Um, he started producing most of his movies at this point with his wife,
Oh, okay.
Sandy King, who he married around the point of time we're talking about in the early
So
90s.
she's the downfall of him.
I wouldn't say I'm not saying that,
I'm being
but
facetious.
I wanted to just make that note that Body Bags Forward, every movie was produced by Sandy King. These are not good movies.
Gotcha.
Um, his next movie is Vampires, which is about vampires. James Woods is a leather-clad vampire hunter,
Yeah, this
and
one
he,
this one I have been meaning to watch because you recommended watching it at least once because it's just like schlock town.
yeah, it's certainly not good. I would say it's in the same schlock vein as From Dusk Till Dawn, but lacks some of the interesting elements of From Dusk Till Dawn.
Got it. Okay.
Uh, but yeah, it's not an unforgivably bad movie. It's just kind of mid, but it is like the last gasp of like Carpenter's type of hero with James Woods. James Woods doesn't embody it particularly well, nor does he do it poorly. It's just he's not Kurt Russell. He's not Roddy Rowdy Piper.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we're pretty much getting to the point where we're wrapping it up because
Oh my god.
Ghosts of Mars is hard to talk about without being extremely critical.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's called Ghosts of Mars. It came out in 2001, and everything else about it looks bad. Ice Cube, Jason Statham, Pam Grier, Clea Duvall, Joanna Casa. I can't see the rest of it. Cassavetes?
Cassidy,
Oh,
Cassidy.
got it. I can't click anywhere else because the recording will stop.
Oh my God. Yeah, this movie is unbelievably bad.
Okay.
Like any amount of what Carpenter did to make good movies is gone. Like there's no longer any dynamic range in the camera work. There's no thought with regard to blocking or staging or eye line or eye fixtures. It's just put the camera in front of the action and say go. Like it's visually boring.
Did he
It
sell out? Like,
wastes
what
all of these
happened?
actors. He just gave up, clearly. He just stopped giving a shit. Like it just this movie is made with 0% passion. Like if Village of the Damned and Vampires are made with like 25% interest, this is zero. Like he was not trying to make this movie good at all.
Oh my god. How
And
about
it's obvious.
how about the ward?
The Ward was then made like 10 years later. It seems like Ghost of Mars like was basically the end of his career and then he gave it one
Hmm.
more go. Uh, he basically shouldn't have given it another go.
Yeah,
This
that's what it
this
seems like.
Amber Heard vehicle is not terrible, but it doesn't visually look like a Carpenter movie. Like there's been too much time. Like time passed. Carpenter was not the same guy. He clearly lost his touch for directing. I think he lost his interest. The screenplay is very mediocre, cliche, and predictable. Um, and part of Carpenter's inability to like recapture the charm of his earlier movies is obvious because of the really, really bad performances in this movie, particularly by Heard and Danielle Panabaker. It does feature a young Sydney Sweeney, which I guess is probably novel for some people.
Jared Harris as well.
Yes, Jared Harris is in it.
I did not know Sydney
He's
Sweeney was in that movie. That's
mhm.
so that
little
feels so random.
little kid Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, that feels so random.
She was a child actor.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Um,
That's one of those things that makes people uncomfortable to think about.
got it. Okay.
But yeah, that yeah, right. But anyway, yeah, that's John Carpenter's career as a filmmaker. He made some like TV shorts and things after that and somewhere in between, but mostly since The Ward, he's just been executive producer and he's done some music for the new Halloween movies, and that's it. He just likes collecting those checks. I think he's a tragic figure in terms of a filmmaker because of what he clearly could have been or wanted to be.
You beat me to the
Uh,
punch. That's what I was gonna say.
yeah, but I mean, whatever you want to say about it, he is going to have a lasting impact on future generations of filmmakers for making at least two very notable classic films, which will endure as long as people continue to watch movies. Basically, whenever the convergence happens and we only watch AI stuff, John Carpenter will be an important iconoclast who rejected the studio system at most turns, clearly had ideas outside of mainstream despite wanting to make like commercially viable films. Uh, so he was an enduring original writer. He's still alive,
Yeah.
and he still does like speaking tours and things. And despite his very nihilistic approach to a lot of the stories, he is an upbeat guy who remains very positive with his fans. And I'm sure he feels somewhat vindicated not only by the massive amount of wealth that he's enjoyed because of the success of his few successful films, but because like his films have only grown in popularity and cult status, which it has to feel good for him, for someone that was just yelled at and heckled by critics to then have more and more people over time be like, nah, man, your movies are great. Like, I don't know what those people were talking about then, but screw Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, I agree. I do feel bad that he is like somewhat of a tragic figure. Because obviously, like we talked about, where we talked off air, that he could have had the trajectory of someone like Steven Spielberg, but in some ways he kind of self-imposed not doing that. And then like it kind of seems like he kind of oscillated between trying to do that career path and then like failed to some extent and didn't get the recognition that he deserved, from critics or what have you. And that it didn't allow like the door to be unlocked for him to get other work of that nature. But at the same time, I do find him inspiring in a lot of ways, especially the fact that he is a bit of like a jack of all trades, like a writer, director, producer, and composer. That's just awesome to see in any person. I think the compositional piece is the thing that I think is not most noteworthy, but sort of most surprising. I mean, obviously, like I like music, but it's something that I've always flirted with, messing around with, and trying to take a little bit more seriously to create ultimately something in a movie that influences the audience's understanding of the movie, their overall emotional connection, and and like tethering them to the character or whoever is working through the movie itself. And I think he does that to great effect in his best movies. And we talked about that before, circling back on when he has more control, his movies were more cohesive, and better.
I don't even agree that it's more control. It's just a lack of like an executive
Yeah,
corporate voice.
yeah.
Because like he ceded plenty of control to his collaborators, especially the ones he worked with over and over again, like cinematographers
Right,
or
like
special effects
Cundy
people
or
and editors
Morricone.
and yeah, or even, his wife who he produced movies with, or Deborah Hill who he wrote a bunch of movies with, or Nick Castle who he wrote a bunch of movies with. Like he had successful collaboration. He wasn't like the director as dictator type of auteur, but he definitely, like to what you're saying, like he could not deal with studio input, like that type of like you just change. You need to cut 5 minutes here because it just movies are an hour and 20 minutes. They're not an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, and I admire the fact that I feel like myself would really struggle with that as well. Like people telling me artistically to make decisions based on money, um, I would just
That's what
disagree with.
that's what filmmaking is.
Yeah,
To make these theatrically released movies is to make numerous concessions and sacrifices. And so, John Carpenter is like close to 80 years old now.
hmm
Uh, that type of filmmaker has become more of a rare breed, at least in the ability to make movies with like 10, 20, $30 million budgets. Like you can still do it. In fact, it's just as easy to make a movie today as it's ever been. Um, so I think Carpenter will always remain an influence in that regard for just, and that's what he tells people, just like any other older filmmaker when asked like, how do you be a filmmaker? You just go make a movie.
yeah, Yeah, and I find great inspiration from that and from him and his lasting movies, and I can't wait to work my way through those selective ones that we talked about. Starman is definitely up there for one that I will be watching, as well as The Fog and oh god, not Memoirs of an Invisible Man, possibly, but what was the last two? Oh, In the Mouth of Madness and Big Trouble in Little China, for sure. But if you haven't seen The Thing, my God, go watch that. I can't. If you've stuck with us this long, yeah, you got to see that.
Yeah, the Halloween and The Thing are must watch. I think Halloween everyone should watch because it's a good, even if you dislike horror movies, it's not too scary or too violent or anything that it would keep you away, like really scare you. It's a good introduction to horror on most levels. The Thing is like extremely violent and like pretty disturbing. So that one I can't just recommend to everyone, but I figure
I'll recommend it to everyone.
of the few thousand people who watch this podcast must be sickos, so they would assuredly love The Thing.
Exactly. You know, as a high school teacher, cannot recommend The Thing enough. All right, that should about wrap it up. You got any closing wild remarks, shrieks, jokes?
No, at risk of saying something bad, no.
You just see a hook come across your throat from the lawyer. Keep it together.
Yeah, I got no further jokes,
Oh,
no
cool. He gave
comments.
you the thumbs up. All right, we'll see you on the next
Oh,
one.
the Halloween. We didn't talk about the Halloween sequels.
All right, I might stop recording. If you like Halloween and the Halloween franchise, good on you, I guess. But I don't know.
Some of them have charm. I like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, the only Halloween movie that doesn't have Michael Myers.
Got it.
It's just a completely different movie and actually a good movie.
Interesting.
Yeah. People don't watch that one. They should.
Got it. Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I just have no interest in talking about like the Halloween franchise.
Hates John Carpenter.
He directed like what, two of them? One of them?
Hates freedom.
Just like Michael Myers.
Loves Ronald Reagan.
Absolutely not. On that note, go Nixon.